Thank you so much, and your brother is very great. One key challenge facing Africa is what is known and called ruled by law. No nation can move forward without enthronement of rule of law. But in Africa, especially in Nigeria, what we see is ruled by law. Not many people know the difference. But I'm going to present Prof Tony Mba to explain to us how rule of law can transform any human society and how rule by law is holding back the development of Africa and the third world nations. Just take your time and listen to him. It's very important. Share this video and subscribe to this channel. Thank you and God bless you.
I started this document. It was about 4 pages of some level of academic exposition, and I decided no. That's not really what I want. This is a mixed crowd. So I decided to whittle it down to about 2 pages to make it a discussion, amongst us. So it's not necessarily your regular sit down and give a speech. No, I want us to discuss. I want us to talk. The topic is rule of law. We will also look at the legal environment and how that links with economic development. We will look at what is rule of law. We'll touch on the origin of it. We will look at the links between the rule of law, legal environment, and economic development. Is there a relationship? We'll also look at what I call rule by law as against rule of law, and I call that the Nigerian perspective. There's a difference between rule by law and rule of law. So what is rule of law? Because everybody speaks about rule of law. We're now in a political season. Every manifesto claims good governance, rule of law, and other. And when you listen to people describe those things, you wonder, really, what are they talking about? So what is rule of law? I gave you a little handout that will guide us, but just for that. The rule of law is a political concept in which all the people, governments, and institutions within a particular geography, such as a community or a country, should be ruled by the same law. Everybody, the leaders and the led, accountable to the same law. The law is applied equally and fairly, and no one is above the law. I have some basic principles of rule of law. There's this little wheel there that let's kind of look at some of the basic components of the rule of law. And I'll start with the law is applied equally to all, and of course we've discussed that, and no one is above the law. So let's start from the right there, the presumption and innocence. What do I mean by the law is applied equally? The law is applied equally and fairly, so that no one, no person is above the law. The law must be known and it must be accessible. Sometimes I don't know if you have been stopped by FRSC people. Probably the first time you see the traffic laws. I've gone to the offices. When I got my license, I asked, what are the traffic laws? Nobody gave me anything. But when they stopped me, they gave me a page of 70 violations. That's impossible to give. And then they choose the one where they can get the most money. Last time they couldn't find anything wrong with me. They said, your windshield is cracked. And we debated that. And of course, the man that you're seeing there is the law. It's judge and jury. He decides it's 5,000, you pay, you go. You write, they give you a thing and said, write a check, you write, go to the place, it didn't go there. Open, independent, and impartial jury. All people are presumed. Presumption of innocence. All people are presumed to be innocent until proven otherwise, and are entitled to remain silent and not required to incriminate themselves. That's what rule of law is. You don't pick up somebody and you begin to beat him up and you force him. Or sometimes they plant the evidence on you and say, look at what you've done. In a rule of law, people are presumed to be innocent. The next one, I said, open, independent, and impartial jury. The jury system must be open, independent, and impartial. You probably know about a case where the former senator said, I influenced my wife to rule according to that which will benefit my party. And he spoke it proudly. Was that independent and impartial? No retrospective law should be made. No one should be subject adversely to a retrospective change of the law or prosecuted for any offense not known to the law when that offense was committed. Don't catch a person and create the law they have violated. Have you ever been stopped by the police? Did they tell you your offense? Next one. Laws are made in an open and transparent way by the people. The people make the law. The representatives of the people make the law in an open and transparent way. The legislatures make the law. The executive branch does not make the law. The judiciary does not make the law. They enforce the law. What do we have? The governor has 27 members of the House of Assembly. Are they going to make any laws? Supposed to be check and balances. In fact, the House of Assembly should approve expenditure and budgets of the governor. But if they are all the governor's men, is that representation of the people? Government agencies must behave as model litigants. There must be separation of powers between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. That's actually from the Bible. Nobody should cross this thing. The executive does not tell the judiciary what to do. A president has already told us there will be anarchy in this country if the judiciary rules one way. And nobody cares. The press doesn't see anything wrong with that. The next one. Fair and prompt trials. People can only be punished in accordance with the law, not in accordance to the level at which you are in enmity to the government. The Supreme Court and the courts have said certain person who is now in incarceration should be released. In fact, the government was asked to pay a fine. I'm glad the DSS is here. That person is still locked up in Nigeria. Is that rule of law? Okay. The law and its administration is subject to open and free criticism by the people, who may assemble without fear. The right to assemble, the right to criticize, the right to disagree. How many people are from Olo? Can we hold this meeting in Olo today? Why? Somebody said the churches are empty. Can we really call a meeting some places in Olo and say, come together, let's have a meeting? And people will come? That must be the exception. Your area. Oh, wonderful. At least we thank God. Let's clap for that. We have one place in Olo where you can assemble. Amen. That cannot happen in most places, sir. It will not happen. Because I called a meeting for Uguta people. First I was told, don't announce it. Because we don't want people to know we are coming out. And when we leave here, we'll go back. We won't say. And they met at Irete. That's very far from Uguta. My brothers and sisters, that will you can look at it. Two things there are very clear. The law should be applied equally and fairly. No one is above the law. If the law says minimum requirement for office is school certificate. If the president does not have school certificate, we cannot qualify him by saying he is eminently qualified. He has not met the standard. If you are in public office, we must know who you are, your name, your age. The certificate you produce, you can't tell your school not to give it out. You wrote that thing and said, I went to this school. Why didn't tell the course to block that information? This information, you volunteered. Rule of law. Anyway, so what are the origins or the origin of the rule of law? I said they are the higher laws of God. Only the higher laws of God give relevance and understanding of the rule of law. The rule of law and your constitution cannot be based by some arbitrarily religious or factional sentiment. If the rule of law is not grounded in the higher laws of God, indeed the 10 commandments of God, it is not the rule of law. It's an arbitrary law by man. So when you have a constitution that does not mention Christianity or Christian, it mentions Islam, Muhammad, and everything over 300 times, you ought to wonder, is this law the law for all? Europe and most of North America are where they are today because somehow the Magna Carta, of course, 1215, but again there was this glorious revolution that took place, I think it was 1688, where Parliament was given power over the monarchy, stopping the monarch from having arbitrary powers or presidential powers to do whatever they like, but limiting the power of the monarch to be ruled over, controlled by Parliament. Sometimes you wonder who is in charge, where we live. I don't have a lot of time. Let's look at some links between the rule of law, legal environment, and economic growth. And I have a quote there by Adam Smith in Wealth of Nations. He writes, commerce and manufactures can seldom flourish long in any state which does not enjoy a regular administration of justice, in which the people do not feel themselves secure in the possession of their property, in which the fate of contract is not supported by law. So, definitely, in economics, we say limited government and free enterprise. And those are very important goals and objectives. The government, business and commerce cannot exist without government. So there is a role for government, for business to thrive. So what should the legal environment be? The legal framework for markets. By market, I mean the economic system. Markets do not exist in a vacuum. They are supported by legal infrastructure. Market exchange requires a legal structure that ensures that the property rights of buyers and sellers are recognized and enforced. When you buy something, you are given a receipt. A receipt ought to be a legal agreement between you and the seller. if what you paid for is not what you received, or does not perform what it is supposed to perform, that receipt should give you the right to go back and return that commodity or ask for redress. In a situation where there is rule of law, that is the case. If I bought something in a store in the United States and I go home and it changes color, or it has some defect somehow, or it is not performing, I return it and there will be no question asked. Because my receipt is a contract between me and the seller that I have given him money in purchase of something, and that thing must perform. The duty must perform what I had hoped for when I paid for that. You don't tell me you just bought it, it's yours. Now you keep it. I bought something and I will mention the name of the store. They came back and said, no, you already left the store. I said, but I just walked out. That was it. I have my receipt. The receipt in America must have time and date, the name of the seller, the warranty. So if it's not performing, because otherwise you're just stealing my money. If you give me counterfeit, I should be able to have a redress. Not so, where there is no rule of law. Good laws and good institutions augment markets. Clear and predictable rules, transparency in procedure, legal enforcement of complex, impersonal contractual relations are necessary for the expansion of markets. Yes, in the villages you can go to your neighbor and buy salt and tell him I will pay you tomorrow, that's fine. But today, you may be buying something from somebody in Europe, Asia, or America, or even in Lagos. You may never know who he is. You may never see him. But you should be able to send your money, because your money guarantees you the right to receive that commodity and receiving what you paid for. Can we buy things on the internet or overseas if there are no rule of law? If there is no recourse in case the commodity is not acting the way it should be? Or for that matter, you can send them money and they don't pay. If you have lived in the United States, you know how difficult it is to get in money here. If you order things from so many of those stores, they tell you we don't ship to Nigeria. Go to eBay, they'll tell you we don't ship to that country. We don't do business with that country. But you can go to Togo and order anything, anywhere in the world, they'll ship it. The post office will deliver it to you. When was the last time anybody received anything from the post office? We still have post office, by the way. How can you do commerce if you purchase something and there is not a means to distribute it back to you? So, if you are dealing with overseas, you will have to use DHL, and it's very expensive, and that limits market. How many people know about Alibaba? Okay, I try to do the same thing. By the way, I'm the consultant. I didn't bother going into business. at the consumption of the Oil Palm Growers Association of Nigeria, Imo State. What Alibaba did, I wanted to do for the oil company, for the oil, the palm oil sellers. Alibaba simply put on the website. He realized the world is now a global village. He created a website where you could buy anything, including flowers, from China. You could buy their spice. He realized if some middleman will buy those things and package them, it will cost a lot of money. So he created that website so that you and I can buy directly from a man in a Chinese village. And that man in a Chinese village can sell directly to you without the middleman. That is the purpose of the internet. And that's how Alibaba came. So the only thing he needed to do was to put a company that will package this spice, because the local man in the village wouldn't know how to package it. With a little fee, the guy will package it and ship the thing to you. And so you are now dealing directly with that person, the seller. I created the same thing for the Oil Palm Growers Association of Nigeria, Imo State. Put together a document. You probably know my relationship with the central bank. The whole idea of creating clusters in Imo State was my idea. When the former central bank governor, MFL, called a meeting in Abuja, and he said that all the government is rolling out what they call an anchor borrowers program, whereby they will give loans to people or grants to develop oil. But 5 companies, all of which are in Benin, one city, will be the anchor, will buy all of that thing and then distribute it. I raised my hand in the middle and said, no, sir. How can you do that? Whether it is palm oil or crude oil, it is in the southeast. If it's on top, it's palm oil. If it's in the ground, it's crude oil. It's all in the southeast. How can you collect all of our oil and sell it through 5 companies that are all in Benin? He said, you know what that guy said is true. I will do that. And I told him, I know why you are concerned. Because your concern is these people cannot produce SP, a special palm oil. But I will go to the southeast and I will create clusters of farmers. And together, they can come together and we can now take all of our palm oil products to a miller and mill to SPL level. He allowed that. So all the oil palm clusters created in Imo State was created by me. If you go home, ask any oil palm farmer. I came to their village and qualified their clusters at my cost. Imo State government didn't give me any penny. The federal government did not give me any penny. Can ask anybody. It's not mandatory to make a lot of noise. I also created the ones in Ebonyi, some in Cross River, and some in what's the last state? Akwa. I went to those places and met with the ADPs. And every cluster created in Imo State was by me. Then we went back to the federal government and said, okay, now we are ready to get loan. The important thing about oil palm is not the fruit punch, not that nut. It's the oil. So give us loan to process the oil. The federal government will not give loan to process the oil. But they give loan to grow the palm fruit. You know why? When you get your fruit punch, you go to a miller. And who owns those milling places? Who are on contract to those milling places? Who buys all the oil, and where does all the oil go to? You've seen the big trucks sending them north. Haven't you not seen those? That is I'm telling you the truth. So what did I want to do? To sell directly. Because the people that consume our palm oil the most is India, followed by China. Is to sell directly to them. You think I can get cooperation with the governors in eastern Nigeria or southeast? No. We could easily create a website and sell everything, including pepper, directly to whoever needs it anywhere in the world, and the money will flow right back into that village. But we need a legal structure in case something happens. The next thing, legal protection for investors. Capital markets, your banks, your financial institutions, play a pivotal role in economic development of our societies, because they serve as the conduit between those who want to save and those who want to borrow. Those who want to borrow to invest are investors. These are major source of financing for business. Have you gone to any bank here to get a loan? If you don't understand anything about Nigeria, try to get a loan from a bank. And look at the rate they charge, almost 1/3, 25%. But in developed worlds, it's about 5%. Sometimes no interest. The government subsidizes it. So we need laws that will provide instrument for risk sharing, especially for small holders vis-a-vis large holders. The difference between the developed world and the underdeveloped one is the protection of property rights, contractual rights, intellectual property. And if these things are not in place, economic development will be impossible. Why would anybody coming from the West to invest in a country where the governor can decide to tear down your building if he wishes to do it, even after the court says don't do it, and he'll take it down? And you go to the court system, it will take probably another 10 years with monthly visits to the courts, and nothing will be achieved. I know what she was saying. One of the legal luminaries in our time, and who's from Owerri, told me the other day, said he took all the outstanding cases now in the federal court system, dividing them by the number of judges we have per man hours. It would take at least 200 years before all the cases that are outstanding will be resolved. Is that justice? The electoral law says you must make decisions about pre- and post-pre-election issues within 180 days. After receiving all the necessary evidence and documents, the Nigerian court system decided that the day they would decide the case between the presidential election, just said that, will be the last day, the 188th day. Suppose that there's something really happened. We live in a country where the president, for religious reason, can declare public holidays for the next 3 days. Suppose they declare a holiday within that 180 days. Because that's the kind of system we have. Mondays have ceased to be business days. Because there's no rule of law. You don't even know. Even when they said there is no, it's funny. When they said there is no sit at home, people are afraid to come because anybody can enforce it. Because there is no rule of law. Is that the society we want? Let's look at the rule of law and judicial systems. Rule of law requires an independent, impartial, and efficient judiciary. That is imperative for the rule of law and a peaceful order society. Our judiciary must be independent, impartial, and efficient. Impartial. A senator should not be able to influence a judgment being presided over by his wife in favor of the ruling party. That is not rule of law. The judges must be insulated from interference by the legislative and executive branches of the government. The president should not be able to decide how long you will stay in jail because you criticized him, or what to do with the case. How long has Nnamdi Kanu been in jail now? And to us, Igbos, it's no big deal. No big deal. We get up and do our business. Is that case insulated from legislative and executive branches? We have cases about the last election, and the president has already won. There will be anarchy. Right? If the judges are impartial and do their work, there will be anarchy. The judges must be numerous enough to decide cases without interminable delay, and they operate with reasonable accuracy and at affordable cost to the disputants. Many people cannot afford cases in our courts. Even when they reschedule the case, you still pay something. We have a case that is outstanding. This is a case where the other party says, we are not interested, sue us. We will not come to court. Let the judge find against us. Even though that other party did not come to court, the judge adjourned the case. He has adjourned the case 3 times. The other party did not challenge. Ask me, what is he adjourning the case for? What is he waiting for? A judge in a civilized society where there is rule of law will be angry that I sent a letter to the other party and they did not come. I rescheduled the date, they did not come. Now I give default judgment. Not in Nigeria. What is he waiting for? This is the society we live in. You can't do business in this society. and you wonder. Places like Anambra or other places where there is relative reasonable judicial process going, food prices are very cheap. Owerri and the rest of Imo State probably has the highest price of anything. I bought, what do they call that thing? The thing we bought in Aba. Stabilizer in Aba for 18,000 is sold for 26,000 in Owerri. Why do you think so? Instability. Would you come here and do business? Can you do business on Monday here? 9 monarchs have been killed within the last 4 years. Over 3,500 youths have disappeared. Is any of these cases in court? Have anybody been picked up for these killings? Oh, by the way, we've gotten used to it. Oh, they just killed that king from the other community, and we moved from like nothing happened. Like nothing happened. Today, nobody knows who is clearing and taking over land in Owala. The government says it's not them. And nobody knows who is doing it. But if you go there and a caterpillar is at work, taking down farmlands, people, the cows can go around and eat your crops and damage it. The government will pay for the cows and then the people should suffer. It's a rule of law. You decide. So, with the time that I have left, let's look at rule by law and rule of law. I call that the Nigerian perspective. What is rule by law? Because I have told you what rule of law is. What is rule by law? Rule by law is when you use the law to arbitrarily advance your goal. That's rule by law. We had election. There was gross violation. There was gross misappropriation. The president at the time says, go to court. And we go to court. And his successor says, there will be anarchy if this court speaks. And our religious leader says, hey, just forget the thing, forget the past, let's move on. But the law says, before I could fill out a form to run for House of Assembly, even to run as chairman of my local community, that I must produce evidence of at least my school certificate. Today we have a president, and maybe he's right in what he's saying. Nobody knows his real name. Nobody knows his real education. Nobody knows where he has worked. Nobody knows his age. Even his sex is hard to tell. Because he went to school in Chicago State as a female and obtained a certificate as a man. And this is serious. But the biggest one is, we don't even know his nationality, but he's our president. Because he has a passport he has diplomatic passport from another country, and he is the president of my country. Is this rule of law? That is rule by law. They were trying to shove Islamism to us through Ruga, using the law to enforce something else, and that is rule by law. Nobody has said anything to Mahmoud. Nobody. But his counterpart in Gabon is running. Mahmoud is about to conduct another election. Nobody has said, should he continue? Should he be suspended? This is a man who superintended over the worst electioneering practice in this nation. That is in court. In every civilized society, they will say, suspend him for now. But he's conducting election November 11. We are ruling by law. You know the salaries of our senators in Abuja. In fact, it is better for me to go there and work as their gardener. Yeah, because the gardener earns more money than a medical doctor or a professor in the university.
Yes.
And the same people who just awarded themselves some Christmas, some vacation money in trillions of naira cannot pass minimum wage of 30,000 for you and I. Why? Because we vote for them. All they have to do is bring 2,000 or 3,000. I mean the election, I mean the politics. Call a meeting, the person asks you, that's it. If you can afford it, they'll put you in. In our state, it doesn't really matter. You can go the Ben Johnson style. Correct? You don't have to be voted anymore. The rule of law and solid legal systems are essential precondition for sustained economic development. The relative weakness in the underdeveloped world that you and I live is the greatest obstacle to growth. What is rule of law? Rule of law must guarantee free enterprise capitalism, where there is no monopoly, where people are free to enter and free to get out of markets. Not so in Nigeria. Ruled by law have chosen one man to build refineries paid for by our government that is incapable of rebuilding false refineries. One man is given that exclusive right. He sells cement. He will sell you oil. Right now, you buy sugar from him. You buy toothpick from him. You buy salt from him. You know, essential commodities. You say, salt, what does it mean? Salt is one of the ways American groceries make a lot of money. You know why? Because people say it's a very insignificant cost. I mean, the thing is like 5 cents. So the guy can add 5 more cents. Yeah, it's 10 cents. Big deal. What's 10 cents? When you collect 10 cents from 20 million people, you've collected a lot of money. 10 cents from 20 million people. It's a lot of money. And this is ruled by law. And I can speak about cement. And it bothers me. Because if anybody should sell cement, it should be those who build houses. Not a nomad. Fulanis don't build. They are nomads. Dangote is not an engineer. He's not even competing fairly. He's given the exclusive right to build refinery. And I ask, is it because of engineering prowess? Why did government not say, who can build refineries for us? I am a director of Imo Cement. We are trying to build that at Okiwe. We can't get C of O to build. And the cement we are planning to build is such that if your building will be this color, you can already put the color in it. But we can't. You could not even go past CAC. Try to register your church. I've been trying to register an organization called God's Project Incorporated, and CAC will not allow it for 2 years. We paid over 140,000. Because somebody sits in Abuja and decides whether you can enter or not enter an industry. Ruling by the law. The police stops you on the road. You broke this law. He's ruling by the law. The law gives him right to stop you. So he uses it to extort you. Now, I don't mind if I'm so base and so stupid. If I have violated the law, maybe you can say, all right, give him bribe to get away because I broke the law. But you are innocent, you are extorted. When you are innocent and they take it from you, it's called extortion. I've broken no law. The guy said, pack. In fact, we are coming back from Port Harcourt. You were there in the car. He says, not only did he stop us because we are coming, he said, now go on the other side of the road. Look like you're going back to Port Harcourt. Until we give something. Because you can't talk your way out. They decide. And you ask what the law is. He says, I'm going to something to worry at the border. He says, before I talk to you, now turn across and go to the other side like you're going to Port Harcourt. And I said, no, I wouldn't do that. Why would I do that? He ignored me. I started begging him. It's okay. I turned immediately. Because if I didn't beg him, I could be there. My brothers and sisters, we can go on and on and on. This state or any state cannot develop. There will be no economic activity. I don't care what anybody tells you or promises you until it is easy to do business in this state. For so many years, the federal government stifled development in Igbo land using what they call exclusive list. Anybody know about exclusive list? Well, you don't even know. Most of us are pastors. And we're in the churches. those who go to another place are running the government. Exclusive law says the federal government can only supply these things, you can't do those things. And one of them is power generation. You are not allowed to generate your own power unless the federal government generates power for you. So since the military takeover of Murtala Mohammed until this last time when Buhari left, that law existed. And that's why you cannot find any reasonable industry here. If you build an industry, who will power it? Where will you get the power? You're going to power your industry with generator? So, when we decided to build a cement plant in Okiwe, and I told my fellow investors, I said, we must do it. And here's what we're going to do. We are going to build a generating plant that will power the entire Okiwe. And I'll go to war with the federal government. And we can no longer continue to be cowards. Because if a man can generate power with his little plant, can generate power in his room, I can generate power. Because that is also a violation. And if the federal government did not do anything about a man generating his own power in his, why would they stop me from generating power to run an industry? But glory be to God. On the last day of Buhari's stay, he got rid of that rule. But from 1979 till he left, you could not generate power. They started geothermal thing in Aban Pitted. You cannot build industries without power. So if you take away power, this is why Igbos have gone out to build, because they can't build here. And if you generate your own power to build, your cost will be so much more expensive that those who are bringing it in from China will beat you out of the market. My brothers and sisters, let us wake up. We need to wake up, especially in the church. Church is a place where we go to learn. It's not where we live, because we are the church. We're supposed to go there and get instructions, and then go outside and implement wisdom. We get from not to stay in the church from night vigil to night vigil to program, and like if God would send money from, no. If money comes from heaven, it will be counterfeit, because the Central Bank of Nigeria is not in heaven. Let me say something to you, my brothers. Somebody said something to me. Two things I'll tell you. In 1969, under conditions like the one we have now, in fact worse than this, where the Southeast, at then called Biafra, was completely cut off by air, land, or sea with the rest of the world. The ingenuity of the Igbo man not only developed rockets, he was able to launch his rockets that destroyed Russian ammunitions and ferrets. From coconut water, the Igbo man made ATF to run our cars. 1969. Like my brother told me that day. 3 years later, we developed tanks, launched rockets, built Ogunigwe, advanced to Ore, few miles to Lagos. 40 years later, they bring in Keke and Pepe, and we are rejoicing. Is that development? One governor called Mba, ruling a combination of Imo State, Abia Abia State and Ebonyi State. Yes, that's Abia. Oh yeah, part of Enugu. Enugu was there then. He built industries across the entire zones. Concord Hotel, everywhere you go. Glass industry. In 4 years, with far less resources. So many years after he left office, we have a guy built a road from Owerri to Okigwe, Owerri to Amifeke, and another one to Umaya that is being repaired because I live that way. And today, that is the qualification for re-election. Are we moving forward? Are we going backwards? Pastors, let me tell you something. I'm a pastor. No matter how you vote, no matter what you vote, you will answer to God. Listen to me carefully. Again, from that, my brother. Anybody read 2 Kings? Chapter 6, verse 20. You won't read it. 2 Kings, chapter 6, verse 24, all the way to chapter 7. A woman cried to the king and said, King, yesterday this woman and I ate my son, because things were so bad that people resorted to cannibalism. And some of that is here today. Prices were so bad that people can no longer afford. Is that here today? Yes. What did the king say to the woman? He says, if God cannot help you, what do you want me to do? Pastors, listen carefully. Belly infrastructure is a ride into hell. The king said, if I catch that man of God, if I catch Elisha, I will cut his head off. Why did the king say that? You are archbishop. You come in here, we get up, we give you this function robe. You collect our tithes, you worship, whatever you say in church, we do. Every honor is given to you. And yet, we have a God problem. What is the responsibility of the pastor? That's why the king says, it is not me that should help you, woman, but that is a man. Because this problem is from God. It is his sword. It is his pestilence and his famine. And who should then talk to God for us? Is it not the man we call man of God? If I catch him, I will cut his head off, because it's not my duty as king. If Imo State is the way it is, if for look, even the governor can't go to his own home, is the way it is. If it's zombie, is the way it is. If there is killing in this town, if there is total breakdown of security, and this is of God. Brothers and sisters, men of God, where is your value? Amen?